welcome to this episode of the 94twenty podcast, where we talk about the music that we love and the industry that we tolerate.
I knew it by heart, yeah, every single part. No, it never got old and it would get me every time. I played it for you, you said you liked it too. Then it was ours and I swore it was written for you and I. Then you had the nerve to end things while it was playing on the radio one night. Oh, you ruined my favorite song. Now every time that it comes on, all I can think about is how everything we had is gone. I used to want to sing along, but now the melody sounds all wrong. Yeah, you broke my heart, but the worst part of all, you ruined my favorite song. It happened so fast, and you barely looked back as I watched you walk out the door about the second verse. And it just kept on playing like it was laughing at me sitting there alone. Oh, you ruined my favorite song. Now every time that it comes on, all I can think about is how everything we had is gone. I used to want to sing along, but now the melody sounds all wrong. Yeah, you broke my heart, but the worst part of all, you ruined my favorite song. You ruined my favorite song. My favorite song. Ooh, you ruined my favorite song. Now every time that it comes on, all I can think about is how everything we had is gone. I used to want to sing along, but now the melody sounds all wrong. Yeah, you broke my heart, but the worst part of all, yeah, you broke my heart, but the worst part of all, you ruined my favorite song. Oh, you ruined my favorite song.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the 94twenty podcast. That was Alyssa Trahan, and that was her single, My Favorite Song. Hi, Carl and Greg. How are you guys doing today?
Hello.
Hello, Carl and Greg. Oh, I'm sorry, Nicole and Greg.
Well, that was Alyssa's, not her latest single, but one of her singles, My Favorite Song. And I don't know, she's just a really well-produced artist. I really like the sound that she's got going on when she submitted her music through that Facebook group that we're kind of involved in right now that's kind of taken off a little bit, which is pretty interesting.
She has a cool look, too. She has a very cool, I like a few pictures I've seen of her. A very cool vibe about her. I think she's from East Rochester, which is, because I know that. I went to school up there. Went to school up in Rochester, I think back in the 30s.
Back in the day?
Well, I didn't go back in the day. Yeah, and then she moved down to Nashville. So
What's it like there? What's it like in East
Rochester?
Cold.
I'll tell you a funny, stupid story about Rochester, though. Because I grew up in Long Island. I think I might have told something similar to this already, but I grew up in Long Island, and I used to, so when I was like 13, we take the train into the city, right? And it was Manhattan is the city. So we'd go to the car show or to whatever, so that was Manhattan, Times Square. We used to go. And anyway, so when I go to college, in my first semester really going anywhere, I'm like just out of high school, my freshman year up in Rochester. So I'm there about a week, and there's one guy in the dorm had a car. And basically, even though I was in Rochester, the college is outside of Rochester in this town called Pittsford, And so anyway, this guy, I forget his name, he goes, "Hey, we're all going into the city tonight. You want to come?" Like the first weekend up, I go, "Sure, I'll get in the car." So I get in the car, and it was snowing, because like it snows there from like August to like March. It's ridiculous. It was anyway. So we get in the car and we're driving there, and all of a sudden we pull into this, like I feel like I'm in like
taxi driver.
No, I'm just we pull up. I go, we're here. I go, what do you mean we're here? Where's the city? He goes, this is it. I go, and there's like one building that's maybe like 6 stories tall, and then there's a couple of delis, and that's it. I go, this ain't a city. What are you talking about? So at that point, I realized, but just by living my proximity to Manhattan, and it was an inherent hipper than people up in Rochester, so, and like, because I was, everyone called me like New York, hey, New Yorker, I hate New York, city boy, and I grew up on Long Island. But I was Rochester. It's like,
So it's like a lot of upstate towns.
Oh, it's basically, yeah, you get to Rochester, you go up to Albany and you make a left.
Got it. Okay.
And the thing is, and then there's one even worse than I don't know how much we're going to cut this out, but worse than Rochester. You go further out, you're almost in Ohio or whatever state's next to it, is Fredonia.
Oh gosh, Fredonia.
You know Fredonia?
I do. So
and basically. Right, yeah. So I was like, Fredonia is like the end of the world, because I used to have a girlfriend who went to college in Fredonia. So I used to hitch from Rochester, past Buffalo to Fredonia. And I'm going,
Fredonia is like 3 or 4 hours farther than Rochester too.
Right.
Like it's not close.
Oh yeah, it's like, well, with New York, so you go up halfway in the middle of New York, then you just make that left west, and maybe like in about 3 hours in is Rochester, then a couple more hours is Buffalo, and then you keep going, and then you're almost
there's
in like,
Fredonia.
Yeah, you're almost in like, Russia.
No, I know Fredonia. I went to school in Oneonta, so
yeah, so up there, sure.
Yep.
SUNY Oneonta?
SUNY Oneonta.
I have really fond memories of my time in upstate New York. I've been to many. So I took a job. I set up a publishing company for a guy that lived in a little place called Argyle, which is like really super rural. I mean, it was a recording studio and a record label and a publishing company, and we housed everything in this old church that he'd purchased. And it's in the middle of a cornfield. But I had wonderful memories. I would fly into New York, and then I would take the train from Grand Central to Rhinebeck.
Oh, okay.
And Rhinebeck was
isn't that in Germany?
Fantastic. That was wonderful. And then it'd be a short drive from Rhinebeck to Argyle.
Is that where they make the socks?
Well, we have a saying down south here. It's out where the owls screw the chickens.
I have never heard that saying
he
before.
Just made that up. He just made that up.
Granted, I've only been down here for 8 years now, so maybe I'll hear it more often now.
Yeah, I forget. It's funny,
You're not hanging around with enough old hillbillies.
I forgot that you're basically almost very similar to me. You're a Long Island New Yorker.
Mm-hmm.
Who and went to because basically when you're in Long Island, everybody went to college upstate New York, basically. SUNY, State University of New York.
Either they wanted to go to to school up in New York State just to get away, or they wanted to stay on Long Island because they wanted nothing to do with upstate. You had 2 different sets of people.
No, I love that. I went there, then I went to New Paltz.
Oh, okay.
SUNY New Paltz, which is right near Pine Bush and Woodstock, and yeah, it was like I wasted a lot of time up there.
I almost went to Marist College, the one by Poughkeepsie.
A lot of hangovers.
Oh, the hangovers are the worst up there. Jungle juice, ugh. Brings back fond memories, but also bad ones.
There's an old adage that is so true. I think it's George Bernard Shaw, right? Youth is wasted on the young. But back then, what a waste. I just wasted time, and as if it was endless and unlimited, like it's like the minutes, I had the unlimited plan. It's kind of weird too today, though. I was talking to Greg. Today, we're recording this on November 22nd. today is the anniversary of the JFK assassination, 57 years ago today. So
57 years.
To me, that particular event, all the disillusionments started to set in.
I think that people kind of had an intuition that it's like, things may not be as they appear, right? There are so many parallels with what's going on today. The idea that, you had somebody that was, by all accounts, much more, I don't know what a great
entitled
term, but absolutely. I mean, all the things that people will claim are wrong with politicians today, or with the president, or with people inside the Beltway. Kennedy had all those attributes as well. I mean, he didn't have the moral high ground, but yet.
Well, you know what? I don't agree. I think. Granted, I think he's very similar to a Trump kind of character, in the fact that he was this entitled rich kid whose father groomed him to be great, and he wanted to be president, and they made him president, and then he got the job, because. But then what he did differently than Trump is that when he got there, I think he found a conscience, and I think he grew into the job. I think he understood that I can do something here. I think he's like Dorothy. He's Dorothy.
He was a master communicator. There's no question about that.
But he was Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. He went to Oz, and then, holy cow. What I liked about Kennedy, from my readings, and I've read a lot about him, is that he had the ego to be president, and then the audacity to be idealistic and think he can do what he wants and change things. He didn't care about the powers that be. He had that kind of entitled audacity that idealists need to and I think that's what got him killed, because he tried to rock the boat too much and say, "Hey, babe, we'll just take you out."
Yeah, I think I've read a bunch of things. I mean, I far be it from me to ever buy into a conspiracy theory, or any of this stuff that's out there currently.
It wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. Come on, that one's true.
Well, it's interesting when you mentioned it to me that it was the anniversary. My first, and this is true for me, my first vivid memory is I was actually watching television in the front room, little black and white blurry television set in the front room of my first family home. And I remember like it was yesterday, Jack Ruby coming into the, what was it?
Yeah, I saw that too with my father.
I was with my father as well. That's my first vivid memory I can remember. And I was 3 years old. You have to remember.
I was a little older than you. So I remember, and I'm sitting there, because one thing I remember, I was living in Queens. I was at my grandma's house. And one thing I know is back then, that was before cable, we had 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, and 11. That was it.
3 channels.
So all the channels had the assassination. There was no TV all weekend. I'm going, this stinks. I got to watch this nonsense all day. So I remember sitting there, and then the first day, all the stuff, and the Dealey Plaza. But then on Sunday, they see them walking Oswald out of the police station, and my father, I remember one of the distinctly going, "He's got a gun! He's got a gun!" And then you see this guy come out, Jack Ruby, and then shoot him. And then back in the day, back in those days, they didn't have instant replay. It would take 20 minutes to get the instant replay going. Remember? Let's watch that again. We're getting ready for the. So anyway, but then they'd show it again in slow motion, and you'd see this guy come out, and it was a bizarre weekend. I remember that. I think John.
I think the reason that it might represent this kind of loss of innocence is the idea that, prior to that, we would have all considered, as Americans, we would have considered the CIA to be, irreproachable, right? But yet, I mean, everything that we've learned since is the idea that the CIA was in some way complicit with all these acts. And it's, I was reading that organized crime stood so much to lose with the debacle in Cuba that that's essentially the reason that.
Well, basically, because when I was up in college, it's funny. I get back to Rochester. I used to work for the communications department, so I used to work the projectors and stuff. So we had Mark Lane. He was a lawyer for the Warren Commission, and everyone's listening. Goes, is this a history lesson now about the Kennedy assassination? Anyway, to make it real quick, so I was with him, and Mark Lane. What his claim to fame is, he was the guy who sneaked the Zapruder film out of the Time Life vaults, because basically Zapruder was this guy who took this film, and basically what the Zapruder film establishes is the 6-second bullet theory, because that gave the timeline. So what happened is, as soon as that happened, Time took the film off that guy, this unknowing schmuck with his home movie camera, and paid him like $50,000 to give me that, and they put it in the vault, and no one could see it. So the reason what happened was, and he told me this, and it's true, is that Joe Kennedy, Kennedy's father, promised and paid off, all the unions and Sam Giancamo, I think his name was, and the mafia, to help them get the Teamsters behind his son, and because it was a close election. Nixon didn't lose by a lot. It was pretty close, It was the first TV election as well. It was the first time, TV debates were used. So what happens? As soon as he gets in, he appoints his brother to the attorney general. And what does Bobby Kennedy do? He goes after the mafia right off the bat.
That's absolutely the way I see it, and the way I've read about it.
We get this guy elected, and he sticks his brother on us. Are you kidding me? So
Bobby's assassination is the smoking gun for the conspiracy of the Kennedy assassination.
Oh, I agree, because they even said to him that he was told, listen, Bobby, just so you know, because he was going to get to the bottom of it. He was told, Bobby, there's no sanctuary in the White House. So anyway, that's that. We can go on and on about this, and people are going, "What are these guys talking about?"
Well, I think that if you didn't grow up in that time, I think that you probably don't have a concept of how mythic this has been. And I think you were mentioning earlier that the timeline of the Kennedy assassination versus all the cultural things that happened after.
I think if Kennedy wasn't assassinated, and I've read this, it's not just my opinion, but I'm just, relaying it, that because of the country was in such a depression, that was November 1963, December, Christmas was horrible. A month later, beginning of February, these Marx Brother guys from England with their mop tops are singing, woo! And it was just the diversion America needed,
right.
And they just flocked to it. We were just, and I think if Kennedy wasn't killed, I don't think the Beatlemania would have been as big a deal the way it was. I think things would be different. I think they're connected. Anyway, you want to play another song and then you talk about something else?
Sure. Why don't we?
Now we'll talk about Martin Luther King and why.
Why don't we play Alyssa's song "Psychology"? This is her latest single that she has out right now.
There you go. And it's about, like the psychology of why these guys, who know nothing about the Kennedy assassination,
are telling us the conspiracy theories that may be happening.
And I think there was a guy, he was in a tree and he had a slingshot, but it was anyway, this is Alyssa's song, Psychology.
You turn away. I try to go when you beg me to stay, and when I say we're through, then you claim I'm something you can't lose. And it took a little while for me to see, but I see now why you leave and bring me back around. You don't want me till I'm something you can't have it. You don't need me, so you're trying to get me back. Greener grass on the other side, baby, it's all up in your mind. You don't love me, it's just psychology. I know you can't stand the sight of me out with some other man, but when I'm yours, you're so shady, never could understand. You don't know what you got until I'm gone, and I'm gone, and I won't be coming back around. trying to get me back. Greener grass on the other side, baby, it's all up in your mind. You don't love me, no you don't, no, no, no. You don't want me, tell them something you can't have it. You don't need me, so you're trying to get me back. Greener grass on the other side, baby, it's all up in your mind. You don't love me, it's just psychology. Psychology. It's just psychology. Yeah. Psychology. It's just psychology.
That was cool. I like it. You know, I like about her. She has a syncopated way of singing, which I think is kind of cool. But I always loved one word title songs. You know, I don't know why, but I think they're cool.
So what else do you guys want to talk about tonight? It is the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's gonna be Thanksgiving. And you guys doing stuff or?
Yeah, we are going up to our friends in Clarksville. They're kind of part of our little bubble clique of people.
Are you taking the last train?
We are taking the last train to Clarksville.
You and a couple of those monkeys?
Believe it or not, before we moved to Clarksville, I had no idea that like there was a whole song like last train to Clarksville or whatnot.
Was it that? I don't know. Was it that Clarksville? Maybe.
I think so. We'll get to the bottom of this, but we're going up to our friends in Clarksville, so it'll be fun. It's kind of the same tradition we've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years, so like not truly breaking anything, but there's only going to be like 7 of us there. So,
Greg, you going to your basement in Indiana?
No, I do. I may make it there at Christmas, but we typically do Thanksgiving very, very small and.
You got to stay in the Ponderosa,
right at the world headquarters here. No, Boyce and Hart, I think, wrote Last Train to Clarksville, and I recall that they might have been quoted as saying that the reason they chose Clarksville was because there are hundreds of Clarksvilles across the country.
so a lot of people relate to it.
My basement is Clarksville, Indiana, right? And you guys are headed to Clarksville. What is it? Clarksville, New York?
no, Clarksville, Tennessee.
Oh, Clarksville, Tennessee. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe that.
I'll tell you, if you think about it, think of what a weird first song. That was the break single for the Monkees, Last Train to Clarksville.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one they first released before Here We Come. Even that, you know.
I would assume that at least around here that all these Clarksvilles are Rogers and Clark. Expedition went all throughout this area. So
anyway, so what are you doing for Thanksgiving, Greg?
We're gonna put a turkey in the oven.
I think it's Clark's Bar.
Yeah, right. Dave Clark's Bar.
Dave Clark 5.
We're gonna put a turkey in the oven. We have this thing that's always a big source of consternation. There is this ridiculous
big word for the day.
I know.
Consternation.
There's this ridiculous dish that made its way into our holiday celebrations through the years, and it's called it's hideous. It's called pretzel salad, and it's basically, let me see if I can. It's frozen strawberries and sweetened cream cheese, butter, crushed up pretzels. This amalgamation of
another
Jello, and so
what is this? As for constipation or something?
Here's the thing. So there are certain family members that they refuse. They refuse to come to the celebrations unless the pretzel salad is presented. And so the fact of the matter is that this stuff is not easy to make.
Potato chip pie.
It's hard to make, right? So, and you can spend an hour making it, and then if the Jello doesn't set up, then it just.
Come on, this sounds vile.
It is
pretzels and Jello.
It's a gelatinous mess.
Here, let me say this: that because I know how difficult it is to make. I appreciate.
Who makes it? Maud makes it.
Yeah, Maud's been making it, and I
And then she passed
appreciate
it
it.
down to Kate. Is Kate gonna learn the recipe and keep it in
No,
the
I
family?
don't know. Kate may be one of the people that
It's gonna
is
die with
saying I'm
Maud,
not
you and
coming.
Maud.
Kate may be one of the people saying I'm not coming unless the pretzel salad is on the menu. No, the fact of the matter is that it creates so much hassle and stress because you don't know whether or not the damn pretzel salad is going to set up appropriately. So, our dining experience on the holidays
Is this what? Is this like an
hangs in the
appetizer or a
balance.
dessert or what is it?
This is it's kind of
Side
interesting.
dish?
It's kind of a side dish. It's a salad, jello salad. It's kind of aka or a la 1950s middle America kind of thing. I think the recipe actually came out of a Southern Living magazine.
First time I went to Nashville back in the late '80s, I went to Cookers with Scott Baggett.
There you go.
And I remember sitting down. I think you might have been there, Greg. I remember looking at the menu, and it had like the main things like burger, whatever. Then it said vegetables. It was the heading vegetables, and it said corn, spinach. Then it had French fries, macaroni and cheese. How is macaroni and cheese a vegetable?
Oh, we
I remember, like we sat down. I don't know, I'm jumping the gun here, but they had this. These. I never saw glasses as big as the ones they gave in Nashville. It's like 18-ounce glasses, vats of. That's why I was drinking soda, and they poured this vat of Diet Coke, and I remember I took 2 sips, and they filled it up. It was like this endless soda. It's like I couldn't even. I said, "Stop filling it up. Let it get at least halfway down." They kept filling it up every sip. This gives it a picture of Diet Coke.
And then the whole and the sweet tea thing, yeah, that experience.
Oh, sweet tea, right? Yeah,
yeah. It's I don't know. It's like it's a wonder we're not all like crawling on the ground from diabetes.
Well, we are. That's why lifespan of this country is going down.
Yep.
Anyway, so what are you doing? So you are you gonna make the pretzel salad or what?
I guess. I mean, we're still in negotiation on it. And I assume it'll be made, and I hope to hell it sets up, man. I hope it sets up, because if it doesn't set up, the holiday
Thanksgiving's
is
ruined.
Yeah,
I've never had. My girlfriend keeps telling me about that she loves, and I've never had it, and it sounds horrible. Like, one thing I hate key lime. Anything key lime, ugh,
oh,
it makes me want to gag.
I like some key lime.
Stop. And then she tells me about rhubarb pie.
Ooh, no. Mm-mm.
I go, to me that sounds like, isn't rhubarb like a root? Like, what kind of?
Yeah, it is.
So they normally pair it with strawberry, so it's like a strawberry rhubarb pie.
Well, rhubarb is the kind of thing. It's in that family of dishes where they're basically inedible. The only way you can eat them is to put 3 or 4 cups of sugar in any recipe associated with rhubarb, cranberries. Did you ever eat a cranberry out of the bag?
Oh yeah, they're super tart.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I could go to my sister's, but I'm not going to risk it. I'm not.
Well, get on an airplane and come to my house. I welcome you. Yeah,
and you can try the pretzel salad.
That's right.
I haven't been down in Murphy. I haven't been down since before this happened. March.
Yep.
Remember that was we went to that party, Nicole. That last
yeah, that
was
superheroes party. Yeah.
So that was the last time I was in Nashville.
Well, and then you guys met at Bongo Java, and that's how this whole thing began.
Yeah.
Was it that trip?
Yeah.
Rick?
I think that's probably that trip. Yeah.
You did a lot that trip.
I am so. I'm very. We were going to talk about what we're thankful for because it's Thanksgiving week. I am thankful for everybody's perseverance on this thing. I think this has been a really great experience. You and Nicole.
The 94twenty podcast.
I'm thankful for that because I didn't know if I thought, I'll never be able to do that, and I think we're holding our own, right?
Oh yeah.
We're just doing it, like you were talking.
But we're getting some traction, so that's something to be thankful for.
And I also talk to people all the time by virtue of speaking with podcasters about licensing their music. I talk to people all the time that they make it 6 or 8, 10, 15 episodes, and they're like, you know what? I'm hanging that up. That's too much work. And
I talk to no one
Oh.
consistently.
That's why we get you on Sunday nights when the rant comes
we
out,
get
because it's
you-
the first time all
You know,
week.
people don't understand that. You know, I can't think I've said it once before. You know, this thing is about like they're normally around 35 to 45 minutes, but I usually talk for like 6 hours every week.
And we cut out the
We have to
first
cut out
five and a half.
so much because I just ramble on. I'm like just rantings of a mad lunatic, incoherent.
Well, you're a really fine editor.
I know. That's why it takes me. I punish myself because I edit it, so it takes me the whole day to edit this nonsense. I don't know. So, anything else this week?
I mean, I think people are just gearing up for the holiday this week. A lot of chatter's kind of been around, not just people like actually like doing things or figuring out what their plans are, but just being thankful that like we've made it through this year to Thanksgiving.
But again, I look through it. I haven't really gone out much, and I haven't been down in Nashville in a while. But I'm looking at Instagram, and I'm seeing a lot of these clubs, and they're taking pictures, and they're doing all these things. And I'm sorry, they don't seem to be like really taking this serious. They're still packing the clubs. They're not social distancing. I see no masks. I think it just amazes me that people are just so selfish,
Oblivious.
No, they're just selfish, or they have that like, oh, that could happen to me. There's this one thing I saw that not to sound like a whatever, but I saw this woman on TV the other day, this nurse, and she was saying, "I wish these people would just spend one day with me and walk them around and let them see what I'm going through here, and see the people coming in and how the beds are filling up and what it's like to have this disease and how it's really affecting people and what it's like to hold someone's hand who's dying, who can't see their family because of the quarantine. And it's horrible. And once they realize this is real, maybe they would just, I really believe that if we had some, I don't want to get political, but some leadership that said, listen, everybody, for the next 3 months, we all have to wear masks and make it mandated, and not because we're infringing on your rights, but because we just want to get this done. So if we all pool together for a little while, I think it would have been done already. I'm sorry. I just find these. It really upsets me.
I just think I think it's not easily fixed, and it's going to be a difficult time. And one of the reasons is that I think that the more stress you put into a situation, people's cognitive biases come out, right? So I do a little bit of armchair research and study on these things called cognitive biases. And
that's a good name for a band.
In psychology, there are
cognitive bias.
There are over 180 of these biases that people hold. And, the idea that people are so delusional about this epidemic or pandemic or whatever it's described as, it's just a bias. It's a confirmational bias where if I hear anything, if I hear that nurse say to me, just come follow me for a day and you'll think differently about this, they just ignore it because it doesn't support the narrative they want to believe. And, people are absolutely crazed with their inability to recognize these biases. Everybody needs to take a deep breath.
I don't think it's a bias.
It is.
I think it is a bias.
Google cognitive bias, and you'll find that we have basically 180 different ways in which to think incorrectly about something. It gets me going a little bit because the fact of the matter is
a cognitive bias is a systematic error in thinking that occurs when people are processing and interpreting information in the world around them and affects the decisions and judgments that they make.
Thank you.
Well, so do you think people are truly believing this stuff?
I think people believe that, if I get it, I'll have the sniffles. That's what people believe. If I get it, I'll have the sniffles.
And a good portion of those people will. But that's not the point. The point what they need to know is that 32-year-old kid or 26-year-old kid probably won't get the disease or won't get the virus. And even if they do, it will be the sniffles. I have friends that it's happened to. I may have had it myself. I haven't been tested and it's passed. But what happens is if you get infected, you can carry it and infect someone else that may not be as lucky. And that's the point. That's what they're not getting. It's not about them. It's about the other people.
Thank you.
It's about your mother. It's about your grandmother. It's about your uncle. It's about, so.
Last week we talked about my friend that said, I'll take care of myself. You take care of yourself. No, it does not work that way, ladies and gentlemen. I have to take care of you. I have to be responsible. I can't operate under the delusion that I wouldn't spread something, right? So,
like I said last week, it all comes down to bowling. You're a smart dude, Greg. I really have to admit, you're a pain in the ass, but you're a pretty smart guy.
Well, thank you, Carl. And you're a smart dude also.
I just say a lot of words and it's like,
far be it from me to say you're a pain in the ass, Carl.
But it's like they say, if you give a monkey enough time and a keyboard, he'll type out War and Peace. If you just let him keep just banging on the keyboard, eventually something cool.
I'm on chapter 2.
Something will come out, right? So, I don't know.
So do you guys want to end on a fun fact? The last train to Clarksville was not about Clarksville, Tennessee.
What was it about?
They actually were just trying to come up with like something that sounded good and
saying good, yeah,
saying good. But apparently, there was a little town in northern Arizona that they used to go to in the summer on their way to Oak Creek Canyon called Clarksdale. And then when they were throwing names out, Clarksdale didn't sound as good as Clarksville, and they didn't even know that Clarksville was right outside an army outpost.
I don't want to go into it too deeply because I think it's inappropriate, but I spent 2 full days with one of the Voice and Heart team that wrote the song, and
they wrote a bunch of tunes.
It was 2 of the most surreal days I've spent in my career or in my life.
Bad or good?
I think kind of bad. Yeah.
I'll tell you something funny. I have a friend. I know what. Yeah, let's not diss Boyce and Heart. Who cares?
He had a psychotic episode based on cleaning products that the person in the bar used, and that's just the beginning.
But I had a friend who tells this story about and he's a really good storyteller. I'm not as good, really near as good. And he goes, and he's drinking, right? And he goes, I was sitting home one night and my friend Jimmy is drunk. It's like 4 a.m. He gives me a call and I answer the phone. He goes, this is back in the 90s. And he goes, hey, Bill. He goes, what do you want, Jimmy? He goes, guess where I am? He goes, what? I'm standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. That's all he said. He was just drunk going, I'm standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona.
That's become a destination. Actually, I see a lot of people with their pictures taken.
The power of song, man.
Right. Exactly.
It's still. I think it's even in. Again, getting back to this is supposed to be about music to some degree. I think it's the most powerful thing in the world, more than any other art form. Even with campaigns, but they use songs, music. Music is just the most powerful thing, and. That's what I love about it, because it's still a good piece of music still moves me more than almost anything.
Yeah, I think one of my most vivid memories, just to bring it kind of full circle to talking about the Kennedy assassination, one of my most vivid memories is there was and I don't know the particulars on this, we can research it and put it in the notes, but there was a DJ that made a record back in the day.
Wait.
We're not ready.
Back in the day, DJs would sometimes loop songs together or take news stories and create narration under a backing track, and they'd make these little DJ records. And there was one called Abraham, Martin, and John.
Oh, I love that song.
And
that's Dion, man.
No. This was, I think this record.
Anybody here?
Yeah, but it had he had interspersed great speeches from.
Oh yeah. I have like a little mashup kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And I can remember most vividly laying in my bed in my bedroom and listening to that song through these little mid-century. Some houses had intercom systems back in the 60s.
Right, yeah.
And they would play music. Yeah, they would play music and stuff. And it was just like really formative for me to hear that song and Get the Gun Ready for all this weird newsreel audio over the top of this track. Very strange, very strange. But music has power. There's no question.
Well, why don't we end with a powerful song?
Ain't Ever Going Back,
Ain't Ever Going Back. Alyssa's last single that we'll be featuring tonight.
We'll talk us out, and then we'll play. Alyssa will play us out.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah. Be thankful, I guess.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
But really, don't be thankful unless you're thankful. Don't be phony thankful. Like, thank God you're. That's baloney. If you got something to really be thankful about, be thankful. But don't be a phony, please.
I mean, we are thankful for you listening all the way through this podcast. So truly, we are grateful and thankful for you if you're still listening. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. For all of the links to the show notes and things that we've talked about, please go to our website, which is 94twenty.com. That is the numbers 94 and the letters TWENTY. Until next time, we'll talk to you later. And this is Alyssa Trahan's last featured song, which is Ain't Ever Going Back.
Me either. Goodbye.
Gobble,
Bye.
Gobble, gobble.
It's been a long time coming on a hard and winding road. Ain't carrying nothing but the heaviest load. Now there's no returning to the way it was before. Engine still burning, pedal to the floor. We did